Welcome to the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC Fight Night 273 Burns vs. Malott, also known as UFC Winnipeg. I'm your host, Ben Duffy of Sherdog.com, and with me, as usual, is Keith Schillen, the executive producer of the Sherdog Radio Network. Keith, I got two questions for you. Well, I have a lot of questions for you, but the first two are, one, how are you doing? And two, what did Winnipeg do to deserve this?
I'm doing good. I don't know. Maybe Dana White is still upset about the War of 1812 or something. Like, dude, like, come on, poor Canada. Imagine like you're in Winnipeg. I mean, it's April 13th when we're recording this. I was just at a softball game. It was beautiful out. I had like a hoodie on, but it was like nice. This is like we kept saying, oh, this is beautiful weather. Like Winnipeg, you probably still have like a foot of snow and it's just miserable up there. And like you got to pretend like putting gravy on fries tastes good and shit. And then you get Mike Malott versus Gilbert Burns. Like what are you doing? This is one of the worst cards. And I feel like we keep saying that over and over again. These cards just keep getting worse and worse, dude.
They really do. And obviously this, and one of our coworkers at Sherdog, associate editor Jay Petrie, asked me earlier this week where this falls on the worst cards ever, like not Apex cards, but worse, like actual road show, buy tickets, come fill this arena cards. It's one of the worst road shows for the UFC on paper. I scrolled back in at least 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, anybody who's going to this, either they bought tickets before the entire card was announced, or they just want to say they went to UFC. The UFC doesn't come to Winnipeg a lot. You're buying the brand of UFC. You're not buying, I'm like super excited. I can't wait for these fights. No way. And I mean, this card was so bad, I almost fast passed the main event.
I mean, we're kind of having some fun here. We're going to dive into all 13 of these fights, no matter what they are. But in just having fun, you kind of hit on a point there where you said people that fill this arena, to whatever extent they fill it, are there for the UFC brand. That's the UFC's dream. If you've been a fan of this sport for at least long enough to remember when someone like Conor McGregor or Ronda Rousey was still fighting, you know that nothing really scares the UFC more than when a star starts to become bigger than the brand. There's no danger of that on this card. I will say that. I mean, if they had it their way, every UFC card would look like a Contender Series card where you just get white or red shorts or blue shorts. You go out there and do your thing, and it's just all under the UFC umbrella.
The people going to this card are the people that went to the PFL in Chicago the other night. Like you just bought tickets because, oh wow, the PFL's in our city, but you're not an MMA fan. Like nobody was picking that PFL card over UFC 327. Like no one was more excited for that. So it's just like,
well, it's the phenomenon of the excluded middle, because you're either not an MMA fan or you are such an MMA fan that you were going to go to the UFC card in your town no matter who was on it. Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
But I mean, if I lived in Winnipeg, I'd be like, you know what? I'll just wait and see if they do a card in Toronto later this year that's better, and I'll drive for a whole day.
You know what though? If you live in Winnipeg, you probably have like big enough problems as it is. So like getting to watch Gilbert Burns fight, I guess, isn't too bad.
Yeah. Well, we're doing a little bit of dunking on this card, but let's ask a couple serious questions about this one.
Like where Winnipeg actually is. Like I have no idea where Winnipeg is.
It is.
I know it's in Canada. If you gave me a map of Canada and you gave me like a minute to find Winnipeg, you think I could find it? I know it's west. I know that. I know it's not New Brunswick.
Yeah. I mean, I could point out Alberta on a map of Canada. Pointing out Winnipeg within Alberta would be even beyond me, and I'm pretty good at geography.
Let's see if my wife knows which province is. Honey, baby, we're doing this live on the air. Honey, what province is Winnipeg in? All right, so she knew.
Okay, well, as long as we have
she might have heard you say it.
We have our resident Canadian expert, on the line here. Mrs. Schillen, is Winnipeg a cool place?
Heidi, can you hear him? Cool as in like I'm cool, like not like cold cool.
It probably is. I've never been there though.
Yeah, this is great here. This is great. This is great entertainment.
This is what the people tune in for. Oh, I can hear her just fine.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
She said it's probably cool, but keep in mind she doesn't come from a very cool place in Canada. So
no, but I had to turn the fan off last night in our bedroom. I went in, and it was freaking. It was like Winnipeg was in my bedroom. Like this girl, she must be having hot flashes or something. I don't know what's going on.
Y'all, there's gonna come a shoe flying across the top of that laptop and hit Keith right in the forehead.
Yeah, but he's from Canada. Like it's not gonna be a spiral. I know that. This is how bad this card is. We don't want to talk. All right. So what was it? What was the serious question you had?
A serious question. The one that I usually ask right off the top: who on this card is closest to a title shot if they win?
I mean, it might be Milan. Jasudavicius and Silva, the winner of that fight. I mean, I think it's always insert female. Like that's always,
probably
excluding the females because it's always a female fight. It's probably Milan if he wins, and he's still quite a ways away.
Yeah, I agree. This one, it's rough. Even including the main event, since I usually exclude the main events and the co-main event from this question, but I'll go ahead and include the whole card. Which fight on this card are you looking forward to most?
I might surprise you with my pick because I'm taking a New Englander. I'm going with Allan Nascimento and Mitch Raposo. I mean, it's not shocking I take the flyweight fight.
Yeah, of course.
But Mitch Raposo is the one New Englander I actually think he's pretty talented.
And that should be a really fun fight. He's a super underrated guy. I like that one. Kyler Phillips versus Charles Jourdain should be a really fun fight.
Yeah.
Sneaky relevant, but again, on almost any other card, not co-main event relevant.
No.
Yeah.
Let's get this over with.
First up at UFC Winnipeg is a men's bantamweight matchup between the debuting Jamey Siraj and John Yannis. Siraj, the 31-year-old from British Columbia, Western Canada, 14-3 overall, 0-0 in the UFC. Fought most recently back in February at Canada's Battlefield Fight League, where he tapped out Adinilton Matos in the second round. He'll be taking on Yannis, the 31-year-old from Texas's pumpkin capital. And I don't even remember. Yeah, it's a little town in the Panhandle. It's Texas's pumpkin capital. I totally forgot the name of it, but he's 9-4 overall, 0-1 in the UFC. He joined as the outgoing Fury FC bantamweight champ last year. Made a short notice debut up a weight class against Austin Bashi. So pretty tall order. He got tapped out in the first round. Here he is back in his proper weight class, back on a full camp, and looking still for his first UFC win. Keith, as far as the odds go here, I'm just going to, and I should have quizzed you on this in the intro, but they are doing their best to make the Winnipeg faithful happy because all of the Canadians, except for one, are favorites in their fights. Siraj, a big favorite here. He's minus 250, Yannis plus 200. Right off the bat, the thing we need to get out of the way about Jamey Siraj is he is debuting here in the UFC at bantamweight. He has not fought at bantamweight in at least 6 or 7 years. He was competing at 145 in Battlefield. He's competed as high as 155 within the last 3 years, and not just a one-off thing, like multiple fights at 155. From looking at him from the eyeball test, he looks like a guy who could make 135. He's short, stocky build, like he's built like kind of like a wrestle boxy type guy. Physically, he looks like he could make 135, but again, he fought 2 months ago at 145. So anyone's guess how he'll look here. I kind of creeped his social media. He's, talked freely about it. Yeah, I'm going to be at 135. I'm going to be great, but what else would he say? I said he's kind of built like your classic American wrestle boxer. For the most part, he fights like one as well. Like he comes forward immediately behind punches. He starts out orthodox, but he will switch a lot. He's not terribly fast. Like he's kind of a plodding guy as he comes forward. He does try to wrestle. One of the fights of his I watched was against Diego Brandao. And if that name rings a bell, it's because he was in the UFC literally a decade ago. He was let go by the UFC. He wasn't a bad fighter. I mean, he was above 500 and he was still winning fights when they let him go. But at any rate, Siraj fought him recently. Yeah, he won the Ultimate Fighter 14. That was the Dillashaw season, just to get an idea of how long ago Brandao was in the UFC. But Brandao whooped Siraj, and obviously Diego Brandao is a tall order for an up-and-coming regional fighter to take on, but just in watching that fight, he kept trying to wrestle Brandao, and when he couldn't get clean takedowns, he would just sort of get into scrambles that were not serving him well against a better grappler, just a more seasoned fighter. Several times was just trying low percentage leg locks on a guy who's actively just getting up and hopping away from him. I'm going to be honest, it wasn't terribly impressive. He has some good basic tools, but I didn't really see anything in any of his fights that I watched that led me to believe that he can actually take control of a fight and plot a route to victory against a good opponent. I think Yannis is underrated. I don't think we got really much of a chance to see what he had to offer coming in and just getting steamrolled by Austin Bashi on short notice. But aside from Brandao, Yannis might be the best guy Siraj has fought. Yannis, Texan guy. He's a bit of a kind of, he's not really a wrestle boxer. Defensive wrestling has typically been his issue, but he's a boxer. Southpaw, fast hands, decent natural power. His takedown defense was absolutely terrible early in his career. It's still not great, but I don't think it's as bad as Bashi made it look. Like Austin Bashi is an athletic guy, a full weight class bigger than Yannis, a good wrestler. And so, Bashi took him down instantly, choked him out. I haven't gone back to look at UFC stats, but watching it in the moment, I don't think Yannis landed a single strike in that fight. It was a complete washing. Here, I just haven't seen anything to make me think that Jamie Siraj should be a 2.5 to 1 favorite against Yannis. He's not especially more skilled. He's the one moving down to a weight class that, again, he has not competed in at least 5 or 6 years. I'm still going to go with Siraj just because what he wants to do in most of his fights does line up pretty well with Yannis's best known weakness. But if halfway into the first round, Siraj has tried a couple of takedowns and not been able to get them, and he's stuck on the feet against Yannis, this thing has upset written all over it. Give me Siraj by decision, just by being able to get takedowns in at least 2 out of 3 rounds. Yannis does his best to get back up when he's taken down, but that's clearly not his wheelhouse. But yeah, again, I think the line's completely out of whack here. And if the takedowns aren't coming, it's, I think, going to be an ugly debut for Jamie Siraj.
But I think I'd rather go back to talking about the pumpkin capital of Texas to break down this fight. I'd rather come up with the top 5 pumpkin patches in America.
Yeah. Okay. It's Floydana, Texas, which is this little town of 2,000 people out in the Panhandle. But okay. Yeah, it's America's pumpkin capital. So
I've been to America's Christmas capital or something like that in Texas, called Grapevine. Have you ever been to Grapevine?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Grapevine, kind of greater Dallas area town. Yeah.
Yeah. It's they call it the Christmas capital of America and stuff. It's actually really, I've been there a couple of times. It's actually a pretty cool little town. I was doing my tape study and I was, I always write down all the fights and kind of having a set order where I want to look in. And then this fight wasn't on the list when I first started. And then I'm always miserable, breaking down some of these fights. And then all of a sudden this fight got added and I'm I started watching these guys and I'm you aren't high on Siraj, but still somehow you're higher on him than I am. You are way higher on Yannis than I am. I will say this: Yannis has good volume. The problem is he throws a lot of single strikes. He doesn't have enough combinations. He's better when he's the one pressing forward. He does throw winging punches. He's got a decent lead left hook. Lead right hook. He has some pop in his hands. He will drop his hands a little unorthodox too, the way he strikes. A lot of kicks, teep kicks, quick high kick. He likes to go airborne and do flying knees and stuff like that. He will sneak in a takedown, but he's definitely not a wrestler. To his credit, I saw him land some foot sweeps from the clinch in one fight. Busy ground and pound if he gets it down. Problem is, you said he's a weak takedown defense, and I know he was short notice, upper weight class, all that, but I mean he was smoked by Austin Bashley. Bashley took him down something really quick. Siraj, he's a volume striker on the feet. He's a boxer. He can be very wild with his punching. He likes some teep kicks. He likes the plum clinch. He likes to get in there. He'll actually look for some takedowns in there too. He is relentless to get to the fight to the ground. I'll give him that. But he's definitely not a highly decorated wrestler. Not that technical on that. He will shoot. Sometimes he'll shoot to the clinch, which is my least favorite technique. When you shoot, don't go to the waist and up, go to the hips. He's pretty good in winning scrambles. Not the best top control. He has good ground and pound. He has 7 submissions. I give him that. He does chain subs together, but he's a weak defensive wrestler himself. Though he is hard to hold down. I mean, to me, both guys look at best low-level UFC guys. I do think Siraj looks decent on the ground if he can get it there. I think he takes Yannis down. I think he eventually finds submission. Give me Siraj by second-round submission.
We stay in the men's bantamweight division at UFC Winnipeg as John Castaneda and Mark Vologdin take the cage. Castaneda, the 34-year-old Minnesota native, 21-8 overall, and even 4-4 in the UFC. He's coming in on a 2-fight losing streak. Fought most recently almost exactly a year ago at UFC on ESPN, Gary versus Prates, where he dropped a split decision to Chris Gutierrez. For what it's worth, that was him and Gutierrez, both normally bantamweights, fighting on very short notice, agreeing to fight up a weight class at featherweight, but at any rate, came out on the wrong end of a competitive split decision there. So he's looking to get back in the win column for the first time since 2023 against the debuting Vologdin. 25-year-old Russian, training out of Sweden. 12-4-1 overall. He fought most recently on the Contender Series back in October, coming up a little short in a unanimous decision against Adrian Luna in one of the bloodiest and most rousing fights in recent memory anywhere. At any rate, we'll talk about that in a minute. Got signed anyway, making his debut here. Keith, this is one of the few really close lines on the card and one of the few fights with no Canadians on the card. So I will quiz you. Your favorite is -120, underdog plus 100. Who are they?
Yeah, I agree with the line. I think the line should be very close. Castaneda is a favorite.
You're correct. John Castaneda -120, Mark Vologdin plus 100. So whenever I get ready to preview one of these cards, and I think you probably do the same, I rank the fights in order of the ones that need me to do tape study on them most urgently. And obviously that's going to start with debuting fighters. That means Vologdin was one of the first people. And I'm like, Mark Vologdin. And as soon as I pulled him up, oh, that guy. Because of course, the UFC with its penchant for hyperbole, they literally have the video of his fight on the Contender Series on YouTube right now with the title Best Fight of All Time. It's not the best fight of all time. It's the best Contender Series fight of all time, probably, which is even that's saying something because the Contender Series has a couple of absolute bangers every season. This was the banger of last year. I mean, it was just a wild scrap. All right. So when I pull it back up and watch that fight again, Vologdin looks exactly what I assume Keith Schillen looked like when he was 14. Like he looks like a 14-year-old.
You mean a stud?
Absolutely. I mean, Keith peaked at 14.
That's the reason why they call me Shill Thrill.
No, Vologdin he literally looks like a teenager. He's 25, but for one, he's a little guy. He's short, stocky, compact, extremely baby-faced. his fight against Luna Martinetti on the Contender Series was interesting because he was short and had very short reach, and his opponent was tall, lanky, had long reach. Yet he was the one that was trying to set up on the outside and just bounce into range and have that kind of fight. Whereas the taller guy was constantly like crashing the pocket and trying to make it an in-close battle. I think that's probably part of what made it such a wild fight, because fights where there's that kind of clash and approach either turn out just super awkward and frustrating, or sometimes just turn into absolute barn burners. This one was a barn burner, but maybe almost to his disadvantage, because early on in the fight, his advantages in speed, he was doing well, just kind of parking on the outside, moving laterally, picking his moments to bounce into range and try to get back out of the pocket. But he got tagged a couple times, and by late first round, early second round, all the strategy was out the window, and these guys were just going to town on each other, which on the one hand, it got him signed, even having lost. It was that kind of fight that the Contender Series has 2 or 3 times a season where Dana instantly signs both fighters. But if he'd fought more strategically, maybe he would have won and wouldn't have had to worry about both guys getting signed. I don't know. Having said that, he's going against another guy in Castaneda who is not very strategic either. I've had a number of dogs over the years, mostly rescue pit bulls, and they're all just lovable dogs, but extra dumb. And
that is definitely not the kind of dog I expected you to have.
Oh, dude, rescuing shelter pit bulls is the most liberal thing ever. Like it's my white liberal.
I was thinking of like some like little small like Chihuahua type thing that you put in like I don't know. It's pretty liberal.
No, I don't want a dog that'll fit in the purse, and I don't want a dog that takes shits bigger than mine. That's my range. Like I don't want like some Rottweiler or Newfoundland that weighs 160 pounds. Yeah, we like pit bulls, but anyway, like our favorite one ever, Fiona, just had no problem solving skills. If there was a problem that could not be solved by her going harder in that direction and pushing in that direction, she was never going to solve it. Like
I love that you have a pit bull named Fiona. That's great.
Like she never figured out the thing of just like when a door's almost closed, you kind of like nose it or paw it open. She just ram it shut with her head and then start barking because she couldn't get out.
Oh my
God. That's
Oh, sorry. Quick, 10-second story time with Keith.
Of course.
For like the last like week, a couple weeks, I've been waking up at like 5 a.m. and I hear like this ticking, like tick, 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 tick over and over again. And finally my daughter, so I can't sleep upstairs. My oldest daughter sleeps downstairs, and she's like, yeah, I heard the same thing. It's coming from the garage, and it's a red robin that's smashing his head against our glass over and over again. And I'm like, why is it doing that? No one could figure out what it's doing. Like, is there something in the garage that's trying to get? I finally figured out a couple weeks ago. I had like old blinds. It was in the garage. It's behind bushes. It's like, not even noticed why I took it out. They're all nasty, because I'm doing woodwork and stuff in there. And so I finally took them out. So it's just glass there. Well, apparently robins are very territorial, male robins. And they see their own shadow and they think it's another male and they keep tacking it, like, get out of my area. And that's what I was hearing over and over and over again. So still better fight IQ than Lupe Gooden is, but still. At 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, my wife came home with a blind from Walmart and I was in the garage putting it up.
There you go.
It was nice. I get to sleep in today.
Beautiful. Like that Robin, and like poor old Fiona, like Castaneda, not great at making in-fight strategic adjustments. Like he has game plans. Like he'll clearly come into his fights with an understanding of I'm probably best off if I strike with this guy, or I'm probably best off if I try to wrestle this guy. Because in terms of skills, he's pretty well rounded. But if say he's coming out to strike with somebody and they just start kicking his leg, or just they keep zapping him with the jab, he'll just keep running into the wood chipper harder, and it doesn't usually go well for him. If he gets an evenly matched fight, his fights tend to be very exciting. But if he's at a disadvantage, the wheels fall off pretty quickly. Because of that, I actually, this is a pretty obvious front runner for fight of the night. I mean, these guys are probably going to have a wildly fun fight. Like they're both offensively potent, well-rounded. Neither of them are huge finishers. And they both have a demonstrated preference for the same kind of fight. I'm guessing that's what we're going to get here. I like Vologdin's athleticism. Like he's a small bantamweight, and I'm not saying he's the next Merab, but Merab is proof that if you have a certain set of top shelf skills, you can overcome a size disadvantage at bantamweight. I like Vologdin in this fight. Give me Vologdin to just win 2 out of 3 rounds of a kind of wild barn burner that spends time, like ample time in the wrestling and scrambles as well as like kickboxing on the feet. But I'll take the new guy.
Yeah, I think this is one of the more entertaining fights. I always kind of like Castaneda. Like you said, he's a fun fighter. Definitely an action type fighter. Southpaw. He's a big guy. He's long and lanky. Good footwork. He likes to strike from range. He hated when he was getting pressured by Daniel Santos. He also kind of struggled with the speed of Chris Gutierrez, which is a little shocking being Gutierrez at this point of his career. But he tries to make up for his lack of skills with output. He's got good output. He throws straight shots on the pike. He's got a good left hand, short, tight, not a lot of tells. Has a lot of variety in striking. Goes high, goes low. He does hit hard. He's got a bunch of KOs on his record. Hard kicking game. So I guess you said he's not a finisher. I disagree a little bit on that, but hard kicking game. He's got a quick high kick. His defense isn't the best though. He gets hit a lot. He doesn't move his head enough. He also doesn't check leg kicks. We've seen him get his legs kicked out a lot. He's a solid wrestler. He's got a lot of takedowns so far in the UFC. Though against Daniel Marcos, he completely abandoned his wrestling, and that's definitely the guy you don't abandon your wrestling against. That's definitely not the guy you want to swing out with. But he's good at winning scrambles. He has 7 subs on his record. What I liked about Vologdin is, he's only 25 years old. So, that's always like one of my favorite attributes is your age. He uses a lot of movement. He's very hectic, a lot of movement, kind of stick and move, a lot of feinting, a lot of up and down attacks, switches stance on a lot, attacking different angles. But a lot of times he'll throw like one big blow instead of throwing big combinations. Like his output is good. He has a lot, similar to what I said about who was it? I don't know whoever it was in the last fight. I already forgot who I said it about. But like his volume isn't that, but I would like for him to throw some combinations. I like his kicks. Like he'll throw some spinning attacks, but he also has some hard kicks. Though he will throw some naked leg kicks, so he's open to be countered when he does that. He also gets his own legs kicked out. He can sneak in a takedown, and he's pretty hard to take down himself. And he has 4 subs on his record. So I agree. I think this is gonna be a fun scrap. I think Castaneda's a little underrated. He's definitely a tough out for someone in the UFC debut. He's been around for a while. Vologdin, I think he's a good addition to the UFC. He's young. I think both guys are going to have their moments. I agree how you see it. I see a lot of back and forth. I think the line is really good. When I'm stuck between 2 guys, I'm always going to go with the younger guy. Give me Vologdin. I'm going to say it's super close. I'm going to say it's split decision.
Men's flyweights take the cage next at UFC Fight Night 273 as Mitch Raposo squares off against Allan Nascimento. Raposo, the 27-year-old from Fall River, Massachusetts, which, as I understand from Keith, means he's probably Portuguese or Brazilian. He's probably got at least one grandparent who calls him Michi Raposo. He is 10-3 overall. He's 1-2 in the UFC. That's the bad news. The good news is that his one win was in his last fight. He came in last October at UFC 321 and upset Azat Maksum by unanimous decision. With his first UFC win under his belt, he would love nothing more than to even out his octagon record at 500 against Nascimento. 34-year-old Brazilian, 22-6 overall, 4-1 since joining the UFC. He is coming in off of, he's coming in on a 4-fight win streak, but most recently choked out Cody Durden in the second round at UFC Fight Night Garcia versus Onama last November. Nascimento is your favorite, Keith. What do you think the line is?
It's probably pretty big. Nascimento's a minus like 230.
Nascimento minus 200, Raposo plus 165.
Oh, actually,
Respect
all
for the American.
Yeah. Put respect to New England. Fall River in the house.
Fall River in the house. Yeah. Break this one down for me. I'm with you in that I thought Raposo was better than his record even going into the Maxim fight. He looked great there. I mean, this is pretty good for a meeting of two guys who were signed after losing on the Contender Series. Tell me how you think this fight plays out.
Yeah, Mitch Raposo from Fall River, Mass, place where I used to live. I know that's like the bingo card. So get that one. I know on the recap show, I mentioned that I like watching the Netflix Monster series. The next person they're doing is Fall River's own Lizzie Borden, which I've been to the Lizzie Borden house and everything where the famous murders happen. So check that out. My daughter just played a softball tournament right near it. She actually played in the Lizzie Borden Classic. And I was like, should we having a name of a softball tournament named after like a famous murderer? I know she was like not found guilty, but I'm like 100 years from now, are they gonna have like the O.J. Simpson Invitational? Like, what's going on?
So you're saying she went up to the plate and took her cuts, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Everyone got 51 strikes. Yeah, this fight. Let's talk about this. So this actually, it's a flyweight fight. So they're always fun ones. If obviously Nascimento makes weight, I mean he's such a massive flyweight, long and lanky guy. He is a kickboxer on the feet, pretty technical. I'd say he has plus power for the division. Big kicking game, kicks to all areas of the body. That's the best part of his game. A lot of calf kicks. He does have some defensive issues where he stands very tall with chin high, and some of that has just been such a big guy. He also pulls his head straight back, and he's been clipped in the past because of it. He will use his size well in the clinch or close the distance, get in there, stop framing, stop landing elbows, lands knees super easy because of that. He doesn't get enough credit for how good of an offensive wrestler he is. He's good at shooting when his opponent tries to get past his range and close the distance. He likes to be all the way out, or you start crashing him, he's wrestling. He is a weaker defensive wrestler, but he's a super slick grappler. He gets on top, nice top control. He doesn't mind stalling. He'll hold you down for long periods of time. But if you scramble, he uses those long legs, get you back, lock in body triangles. He's really super flexible. I think he has 16 submission wins. Can get submissions from all areas, every position. If you put him on his back, he's one of the guys I actually don't mind him on his back. His hips are constantly moving, looking for subs, getting triangles with those long legs. He'll look for heel hooks and leg locks. Raposo, I honestly think he might be the best New England fighter, born fighter in the UFC. I'm not talking about your Brazilians with glove and share. I mean, guys born here in New England. He moves a lot, switches stance a lot. He's good at changing angles. He needs better output, especially for a flyweight. He will set up shots with feints. He did struggle getting inside with Sumajarji, and now he's got another guy that's taller and bigger than him. But he has a crisp jab, good tight boxing, accurate. When he lets his hand goes, when he has confidence, I should say more. When he has confidence in his hands, he has good combinations. Got a good overhand right. I'd say plus power. And he could clunk Nascimento because of the way Nascimento pulls his head straight back. He has that classic high guard defense, likes to slip and rip. He loves to slip and rip and then throw an overhand right, like a power right. He works the body well. He doesn't check leg kicks though. He's a solid wrestler though. He can wrestle. He did abandon his wrestling against Andre Lima. I don't know if he's going to want to wrestle Nascimento. But if he does, he's got good entries. If he gets to the fight to the ground, he does need to improve his overall top control. If you try to take him down, he's short, stocky, strong, so he has pretty solid takedown defense. When he has been taken out, he does pretty well to get back to his feet. He has 3 submission wins, but I'd be really surprised if he subs Nascimento. But he's got good cardio. If we get a war, Raposo's not gonna gas out, and Nascimento's one more likely to gas out. I think this is the best fight in the entire card. I think the line might be a little too big. I would like Nascimento closer to. I definitely think he should be the favorite, but maybe closer to minus 160. I think that would make a little bit of sense. I am leaning towards Nascimento, even though I'm a big Raposo fan. He's bigger. He has better output on the feet. I think he's a better threat on the ground in the sense of finishing the fight. I like Raposo a lot. I say last time I'm gonna say Nascimento. I'm gonna say it's closer than people expect, but give me Nascimento by decision.
I feel very similarly to how you do about this one. Obviously, always take it with a grain of salt when fighters themselves or analysts start talking about intangibles. But going back and watching Raposo's fight with Azat Maksum, you can almost see him start to realize in real time that he is a UFC level fighter and can beat UFC level guys. I mean, he's going in there against a highly touted prospect. I think Maksum was like minus 350 or something in that fight. So even a substantially wider line than we have here. Maksum had missed weight. Like, he was visibly like bigger than Raposo. And Maksum probably won the first round, and Raposo just started rolling downhill on him. And by the end of the fight, like, you've got Maksum just basically clinging to the fence in terror, to the point that he got deducted a point for repeated fence grabs, as Raposo was just having his way with them. I can't get that out of my mind, because here he's going against another guy who's more highly touted, more established, more physically imposing, has a propensity for missing weight. I'm going with the upset here. If the best version of Nascimento shows up, he is probably like more physically talented and more skilled overall. But again, I think we might realize that the Maksum fight last fall was Mitch Raposo turning a corner. I completely agree with you that he's the best New England born fighter in the UFC. In fact, I wonder what it's like. I wonder if at the gym he just kind of bullies and abuses Jorgen de Castro, like the old stories you get about like Pulver and Hughes just kind of bullying like Tim Sylvia and Ben Rothwell at Milicic. Give me Mitch Raposo to win again, kind of similar in general terms to the way he beat Maksum. Like, the exact fight won't play out the same way. Nascimento's a very different fighter. Raposo's going to have to thread the needle a different way. Going to the ground with Nascimento, especially in the first half of the fight, very bad idea. Raposo was capable of taking care of himself on the ground, but Nascimento was elite on the ground. But if Raposo throws enough volume, I think he can hold his own on the feet with Nascimento. And I expect him to build from strength to strength as the fight goes along, whereas Nascimento, depending on how his weight cut goes, may either just kind of hold steady or may start to wear out. Give me Mitch Raposo to pick up yet another big upset win by winning rounds 2 and 3. Next up on the UFC Winnipeg prelims is a women's flyweight matchup between Aldrich and Jamey-Lyn Horth. Aldrich, the 33-year-old Colorado native, is 14-7 overall. She's 10-6 in the UFC. She's coming in off a win. She fought most recently a little over a year ago at UFC Fight Night Kopp versus Almabayev, where she won a unanimous decision over Andrea Lee. She is back after, again, a year and a few weeks on the shelf, looking to stay in the win column against Horth. 36-year-old British Columbia native is 9-2 overall, 4-2 in the UFC, and she is on a 2-fight win streak comprising both of her cage appearances of last year. She fought most recently last December at UFC on ESPN Royval versus Kopp, where she knocked out Teresa Bleda in the first round. It was her second straight win, her first finish in the UFC. She is looking to build on that momentum here against Aldrich. Keith, your favorite is minus 180, underdog plus 150. Who are they?
I think Aldrich is the favorite.
It's actually Horth, Jamey-Lyn Horth, minus 180. JJ Aldrich plus 150. I'm going to go ahead and flip this to you. Give me your take on these two.
And I'm flipping the fast pass on this one. I'm pulling out the card on this one. I will take, man, Horth is that big of a favorite, almost a 2-1 favorite. I'm surprised by that. I think they're both kind of underrated. Listen, the reason why I picked this one as fast pass, right away, like my rule is like I can't take a debuting fighters in the fast pass. So, and there's a lot of debuting fighters. And then there was another fight. I can't remember. There was another fight I was doing, and I was like, oh, and then I'm like, oh, I should fast pass one. But I did so much research on one of the, like, I did like a lot of notes, changing my notes and different things. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do the fast pass now. I have to do that. So this one just kind of got stuck. But I think this is a close fight. I flip flop back and forth. I do think Aldrich is more technical, while Horth is more physical, and she always has a good game plan. But sometimes I've always kind of liked Aldrich. Give me Aldrich to win in an upset. I'll take Aldrich by a split decision.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at the line too. I am going to go with Horth on this one. I think a lot of Aldrich's difficulties come when she comes up against someone who's some combination of bigger and more athletic that can kind of push her around. I'm going to take Horth by decision here. And just to make this segment long enough that people can't guess which was the fast pass fight by the timestamps, I'll do a quick story time with Ben. I mentioned on the recap for UFC 327 that I once tried out for Jeopardy. I'll go ahead and tell the story of that real quick. And incidentally, the old friend of mine that showed up in the comments on the recap, Alex Aboud, he was my best friend in high school, best man at my first wedding. You know, we're lifelong friends. We went and tried out together. You know, we're both big nerds. Unsurprising, but you know, like we did.
Yeah, the people trying out for Jeopardy and nerds, shocking.
Yeah, you know, we both did the equivalent of College Bowl for our high school team. You know, there's a local access TV show where different high school teams would do, you know, trivia competitions. We represented our school at that kind of stuff. So when we heard that Jeopardy was having tryouts in Atlantic City, which is an easy, you know, less than 2 hour drive from Gaithersburg, Maryland, where we grew up, we're like, hey, let's do it. It's on a Saturday/Sunday. We'll just drive up, spend the weekend in Atlantic City. We were over 21 by this point, so it was actually a fun thing to do. So we drive from Gaithersburg to Atlantic City. We stay at the Merv Griffin Hotel and Casino because Jeopardy was a, you know, Merv Griffin show. And the tryout, it's basically this kind of cattle call. You're almost looks like you're there for an exam in college. There's just a bunch of desks set up. You sit down and they give you a 10-question quiz. And basically it's the first cut. If you get 8 out of 10 right on that quiz, they bring you back for a more of an actual tryout where you take a longer test. You get a little bit of a screen test where they see if you have any personality, you can speak without stuttering. The people that show up on Jeopardy, it's not completely random. It's why there's nobody there that ever, you know, faints or sweats or pees their pants or can't talk. So anyway.
Yeah, they've been vetted.
Yeah. Right. And we go there for the first thing and you have to get 8 out of 10 to make the cut. And we both get 7 out of 10. Oh. And I'm like, this sucks. Like even the questions I didn't get, they're not that hard. And they were doing 2 days of open tryouts. So we went and did it on Saturday. We're like, you know what? Let's just book another night here. We'll come back tomorrow and see if, you know, we have the answers to 8 of those. We'll give it a shot. So I call my dad, say, hey Dad, we're going to be another day. We're staying another day here. Yeah, we got enough money. We're good. So we stay over and we just kind of have a bullshitty, you know, day at the casino, just, you know, playing games, hanging out, being 21-year-old.
Where was this again?
Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Oh, Atlantic City. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. We go back on Sunday, again, cattle call. This one is a slightly smaller one because it's on a Sunday versus a Saturday. Sit down to the thing. It is the exact same 10 questions.
Nice.
Now, this is like mid 90s before there was really any sort of internet, but we could have gone to a library. I literally could have gone to a library and looked up the answers to those 3 questions and aced the quiz the next day. But no, so we sit down and
we didn't
like
get the answers.
Nope.
What you got wrong?
We assumed it would be different questions.
Oh, no way, Ben.
No, it gets worse. It gets worse. So, you know, we sit down and just instantly, obviously they're treating it like a testing center. You can't talk, but we just look at each other and just both go.
Oh, my
so
Lord.
We both get 7 out of 10 again. What we realize on the drive home is we got a different 7 out of 10. If we had even just talked to each other, we both would have got 9 out of 10 and made the cut and gone on to the next round. So that is exactly the kind of combination of smart and exceedingly fucking dumb that I am. I mean, I was, I think 22 there and I'm no smarter now, but fantastic.
Yeah. What, do you remember like one of the questions you got wrong?
It was the site of a particular World War I battle, and it was the Gallipoli Peninsula in Turkey. And I was and still am a pretty big military history buff, but World War I, especially in my early 20s, was a weak spot for me. You know, like I would have nailed World War II.
Yeah, World War One.
Yeah, you know, World War II, Civil War, American Revolution. You know, I'm aces on that, but yeah, 30 years later, Gallipoli Peninsula. I still it's wake up in the night sweating. Gallipoli.
That's great.
Women's bantamweights are up next at UFC Winnipeg as Melissa Croden squares off against Darya Zheleznyakova. Croden, the 35-year-old Canadian, actually from Alberta, 7-3 overall, 1-1 in the UFC. She's coming in off a loss. She fought back in December at UFC on ESPN Royval versus Kopp, where she dropped a unanimous decision to Luana Santos. She'll be looking to get back in the win column here against Zheleznyakova. 30-year-old Russian, training out of France, is 10-2 overall, 2-1 in the UFC, and coming in off a win. She fought last June at UFC on ABC Hill versus Roundtree, where she won a unanimous decision over Melissa Mullins. Odds here, your favorite, Keith, is -160, underdog +130. Who are they?
You already gave it away. You said all the Canadians are a huge.
No, there's one Canadian on the card that's not a favorite, and once we hit them, I won't bother asking you about the others.
Okay. It could be this one. I'm going to go with the odds and say it's not. So I will say that Croden is the favorite.
You are correct. Melissa Croden -160, Darya Zheleznyakova +130. I'm going to flip this to you. All I know about these two is that they are both big, good size bantamweights that, you know, if the UFC still had a 145-pound division, we'd probably be wishing they'd move up to. I still don't know whether either of them are good, which is why I'm flipping it to you. Tell me about this fight.
If Kayla Harrison beats Amanda Nunes, they might have a featherweight division because she's claiming that she's never fighting that bantamweight after that fight. So they might bring that back, or they might. I mean, honestly, if you're gonna have your champion like go 145, you know, what I mean, like just have the entire division have to go up. Like no one has a big enough star to keep it at 135. Yep. Yeah, so this is the fight I was talking about that I almost fast passed, but I'm glad that I didn't fast pass the woman that's actually from the hometown. I'll start with Zheleznyakova, just because I wanted to get that name out of the way as quick as possible. You mentioned she's very, very big for the division. She uses a lot of movement. She has good output on her feet. She quicker hands. I like her jab. She keeps things nice and tight. I'd say cleaner boxing. Throw straight shots on the pike. When she finds her spot, she starts winging an overhand right. She likes to attack the body well. When we saw her drop Melissa Mullins with a body shot, she hits hard. She has 5 TKOs. She has no offensive wrestling, and she's a bad defensive wrestler. You take her down, she struggles to get up back to her feet. I was trying to say get off her back, but I don't know what I did there. She has no submission wins also. Croden, like you said, huge for the weight class, long and lanky, very physically imposing. She's a technical striker, likes to move in, and then, you know, she wants to be on the outside, and then all of a sudden she wants to come in and land and get back out. She throws long strikes. She's kind of slow, though. Doesn't have the best speed. She has some power. I do like her kicking game. What I like about her, she has some dog in her. When things go bad, she'll bite down on a mouthpiece, and she'll kind of like embrace that suck. She likes to work in the clinch, use her size in the clinch. She likes her knees in the plum clinch. She will look for takedowns. She likes her body locks and trim trips. Not the best defensive wrestler, though. She got headlocked twice by Luana Santos. But if she's on top, she's got good ground and pound and good cardio. I think this fight sucks. I'm not very high on either. I've gone back and forth. I favor Zheleznyakova slightly on the feet. I favor Cronin on the ground. I think both people have their moments. I was leaning Zheleznyakova, not realizing that Croden is actually she's from Winnipeg.
She's from Alberta.
Okay, so we don't know like how close.
I don't know where she actually lives.
Okay. Come on, we gotta get on this. You know what? I'll stay with it. I'm gonna go with Zheleznyakova. I'll say she wins by split decision, but I have zero confidence in this pick.
I feel similarly to how you do about this one. Croden, I feel as though Croden has greater upside, even though she's actually substantially older than Zheleznyakova, like they're 35 and 30 respectively. Croden just has more of the prospect feel about her. She's been fighting at the higher levels of the sport for a shorter amount of time. obviously has, fewer fights on her record. She feels like someone to me that, at least until the physical decline starts, could still be improving from fight to fight. Because there are certain things about her that remind me of Macy Chasson in both the positive and the frustrating way. Like, I'm going to go with Croden here, even though I'm going to sound like Keith when I say this. This fight feels like it should be a pick'em. Like, if I were a betting person, this would be a dog or pass fight for me because it feels like a toss up. But give me Croden as somebody that is slightly more likely to have made strides since the last time these two fought anyone. And for the little tiebreaker that it might make, fighting in front of a very partisan crowd, never hurts if we have a bunch of close rounds for the judges to score. So I will take Croden by decision here.
Hey, speaking of betting, you just remind me of something. We are not a betting show, but I did go on a betting show last week. MMA Fortune Teller was really fun. I want to give a shout out to him and that show. I went against, it's like a competition thing where you have to make so many bets and there was rules and everything. But I went against two betting advice guys, both really sharp, intelligent guys. But I'm super proud to say that the non-gambling guy took home first place. Way to go. Anyways, but yeah, make sure you check out my man, MMA Fortune Teller. It's a fun show.
That's amazing. Congratulations. Guys, get at me. I'm not as good as Keith. Like, your betting sharps will kill me, but I'm fun to have on the show. Up next on the UFC Winnipeg prelims, and unless Jasmine Jasudavicius really can't lay off the poutine, the only heavyweight fight on the card features Tanner Boser versus the debuting Gokhan Saricam. Boser, the 34-year-old Alberta native. They're going to love him. Not only is he from Alberta, he's got a mullet, so he doesn't even have to tell him he's from Alberta. 22-10 and 1 overall, 6-5 in the UFC. He was let go by the UFC back in 2023. Came back and won one fight in UAE Warriors last summer, has been re-signed by the UFC and makes his re-debut here against the debuting Saricam. 35-year-old Turkish-Dutch fighter is 11-2 overall. While this will be his first appearance in the UFC, he had, I think, 6 or 7 fights in Bellator. So if his name is familiar to you, that's why. He fought in Bellator up until 2023. He went over to PFL along with the rest of their talent, but never actually got a fight there. He took a couple of regional fights over very low-level competition last year, and he is making his UFC debut here. Keith, your favorite in this fight is -160, underdog +130. Who are they?
I think this might be the one where the Canadian isn't the favorite. I'm going to say Gokhan is the favorite.
You are correct. Gokhan Saricam -130, -160, Tanner Boser +130. Man, I've got to say, for a Turkish-Dutch kickboxer named Gokhan S to be in the UFC, this is definitely not my first choice, even if Gokhan Saki's UFC run didn't go great.
No.
Like, there's a reason that Gokhan Saricam went something like 5-2 or 6-2 in Bellator, and like basically nobody snapped him up after the PFL acquisition. This is going to sound like lazy analysis, so please believe me, I'm going to flesh it out a little bit, but he's just another dude at heavyweight. I'll give him this. He's well-rounded for heavyweight. For a guy who started off from a kickboxing background, and you look at his record, he's got 7 knockouts against 1 submission. Once he got past the very lowest stages of his career, he realized that wrestling and grappling was going to be his best route to victory against some of the people he was fighting on the next level. And he is perfectly capable and willing to game plan around his opponent's shortcomings. Like his last fight in Bellator, where he fought Daniel James, who is a just free swinging knockout artist. Gokhan tried to take him down and successfully took him down within the first minute of each round. He was like, I can strike, but why would I when this dude could knock my block off? And, successfully, pull off a successful game plan. It wasn't the slobber knocker Bellator might have hoped for, but he's clearly capable of putting together a solid game plan and sticking to it. Having said that, he has all the skills, but he's not great at any of them. He's, he throws a decent variety of strikes, but throws lots of single strikes, and he doesn't have the level of heavyweight power that makes a single strike guy like deadly and dangerous to worry about. He's very plodding on the feet for a guy who's, he's decent size. He's like 6'3", maybe 245. He's slow, like one of the 6'3", 265 type guys. He's not much of an athlete. He has no huge weaknesses, but no huge strengths either. So a lot of it just comes down to matchups, and he will put together a game plan to give him his best possible route to victory. And he'll need to do that against Boser, because we know what we have in Boser. He's not what we thought we had 3 or 4 fights into his UFC run. Like, he seemed like he wasn't necessarily an obvious future title contender, but he was, I'm just going to say it, like, shockingly effective and had a little bit of personality and a look. And if you'd asked me, in 2020, even after losing to Arlovsky, I would have said, oh, this is a guy that's probably going to stick around the top 10 for the next 5 years, rack up some good wins, and probably never quite make it to the title picture. Because on top of everything else, he was young. He's still, I think, just 34, but he's pretty small for heavyweight. He's fought as low as light heavyweight. He's dropped all the way to light heavyweight before, but even at heavyweight, he was usually fighting at like a soft-ish 240 or a more solid like 225, 228, and very quick on his feet, used lots of lateral movement, which mystified most heavyweights just because very few heavyweights have good footwork. That sort of trailed off. Like, he's still faster than the average heavyweight, but it's not mystifying anymore by any stretch. And when he tried to move down to light heavyweight, like, it didn't work. He didn't have a speed and technique advantage over most of those guys. This is really just another guys. I do like Boser in this one. I guess I'm picking the slight upset, but my guess would be that Saricam is going to come out, do some basic striking with Boser, and then work to get him down. I'm going to say that Boser manages to out-volume him, because he does throw better volume than Saricam, and stay upright in 2 out of 3 rounds and win a decision in just a lousy heavyweight snoozer.
Yeah, this is the worst fight in the card. If it wasn't for Saricam making his UFC debut, I definitely would have fast passed this one. And I'm trying also not to like fast pass all heavyweight fights that aren't ranked guys too. But I don't. Why bring Tanner Boser back? Why bring Saricam in? Like, what?
They're bringing Boser back because he's from Alberta. That's got to be the reason.
But still, are the people who are like, they buy the tickets and be like, oh, I can't wait to see Tanner Boser. Oh, that's my guy. I love Tanner Boser. Does he have fans?
Well, dude, here's the thing. I guarantee you, when they called Saricam, he being a longtime Bellator prelims guy, he's like, sure, man, how many tickets do I have to sell?
That's true. Yeah.
Maybe they did the same to Boser.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in Canada, see the Saricam fans. He's gonna try to sell tickets. I don't know. Tanner Boser, he does move well for heavyweight. I slightly disagree about his output. I don't think his output's that good. He does throw a good jab. The problem is he has no power. He's definitely like a point fighter for. He's if he wins, he's gonna win by decision, and it's gonna be boring. It's gonna be ugly. He'll throw a lot of kicks. Not much of an offensive wrestler. He's a weak defensive wrestler. He struggles to get off the bottom. Saricam, on the other hand, he's a boxer. He sets up his shots with feints. Decent left hook. I like that he looks for uppercuts in close. He has, I guess he has a little bit of power. I wouldn't say, he is heavy on his lead leg. So he's open to leg kicks. I think you like his offensive wrestling more than I do. He can get takedowns. He's a bad defensive wrestler. You look at his 2 losses, both of them he was either taken down by like Maori took him down and subbed him, or just was taken down by Popov over and over again. any kind of struggles to get up. I think this fight is terrible. I honestly don't really care who wins. I definitely could see what you're saying with Boser and being he's from Alberta. Screw Canada though. Like I have to go up to Canada like 3 times a year and be around with my in-laws and then them talk about Canada like they're a superpower and like Canada matters. It's like, what are you talking about? Give me Saricam by split decision.
Look out for Keith
if you are
on a
Canada.
UFC Canada undercard next year.
Yeah, if you are from Canada, I'm just joking. I'm just teasing my in-laws. I love Canada. It's my favorite. My kids are half Canadian. I'm just joking.
Next up at UFC Winnipeg, and at least as the card is constituted as of the beginning of fight week, the top prelim is a middleweight matchup between the debuting Julien Leblanc and Robert Valentin. Leblanc, the 34-year-old Quebec native, is 10-2 overall. He'll be making his UFC debut, as I mentioned. He fought most recently back in November, defending his Samurai MMA middleweight title in a bizarre fight that I'll talk to you about in a minute. But he'll be making his debut here. He's on a 5-fight win streak overall, looking to extend it to 6 at the expense of Valentin. 31-year-old from Switzerland is 10-6 with 1 no contest overall. He is a perfect 0-3 in the UFC. Fought most recently last July at UFC 318, where he got knocked out in 1 minute and 10 seconds by Ateba Gauthier. So Valentin, presumably in the last fight of his first deal, trying to preserve anything here. Keith, I was wrong. There are 2 fights on this card where the Canadian is not the favorite because Valentin is minus 130 here, LeBlanc plus 110. Okay, so interesting things about Julien Leblanc. He is the Samurai MMA, which is a Quebec, French-speaking promotion, middleweight champ. He was supposed to defend his middleweight title last November. His opponent fell out. They found a welterweight willing to step up on short notice. And not only was he, as the sitting champ, willing to fight at 180-pound catchweight, he was willing to stake his belt on that 180-pound catchweight fight, which, that on one hand, that shows some brass balls. On the other hand, the guy he was taking on was not good. So it wasn't
I think his record was like 6-8 or something like that.
Yeah, it was bad. I'll be honest, I'm pretty well plugged into a lot of regional scenes anywhere in the US, definitely Texas, the major ones in Europe. I was starting from nothing with Julien Leblanc. Why has the UFC signed this guy? What's there? So I ended up watching more tape on him than any of the other debuting fighters here. Okay.
Why? He's underdog to how do I say this guy?
He's an underdog to a guy that's 0-3 in the UFC. I'm gonna tell you here. I'll tell you what's good about Leblanc. He's tall-ish for the weight class. He's southpaw. He has kind of a bizarre approach to fighting. In basically all of his fights that I saw, he sets up southpaw, but it almost doesn't matter because he closes the distance quickly, clinches, and tries a trip takedown. Like inside or outside trip takedown almost instantly. He doesn't look very strong. Like he's kind of tall for the division, but Valentin's going to be taller than he is. Doesn't look especially strong, but at least against the level of competition he's been fighting in Canada, he's definitely the bully. Like he does fine when, he's the physically more imposing guy, can get his like trip takedowns and just go to work. The bad parts are pretty much everything else. Like he's not much of an athlete. If he can't get his takedowns, if he gets stuck on the feet, he can throw some strikes offensively, but just, poor footwork, poor defense, not much power. I saw him lose to Damian Lapalus, who is basically a featherweight. And they met in the middle somewhere. I think they fought at like 170, but I think he's being signed because he's Canadian. I can't think of any other reason. Like, as hard as Keith was on the Boser versus Saricam fight, that's how I kind of feel about this one.
Yeah.
Valentin is somebody that I'm sure was on Keith's in my cut list, probably after his last 2 losses. And Leblanc is somebody that I don't get why the UFC signed up. Like this, if the term UFC level means anything in 2026, this is not a UFC level fight. Having said all that, I do like Leblanc to win. I mean, Valentin lost terribly to Atiba Gauthier, but I mean, he lost to Torres Finney and Ryan Loder as well. Just it looked worse against Gauthier because whatever you do, whatever it is that you do, you're going to be able to do it against Valentin. Like he's kind of slow, inert, terrible on defense. So whatever it is that you like to do, you're probably going to get a chance to do it against him. It just so happens that what Atiba Gauthier likes to do is run out and punch people in the face immediately really hard. So he lost in like a minute to him, whereas against Torres Finney, he got kind of like rinse and repeat wrestled for 3 rounds. I know what Julien LeBlanc likes to do. And more importantly, Julien LeBlanc knows what he likes to do. So give me LeBlanc to win a decision here over Valentin, probably by tagging him a few times in brief exchanges on the feet, taking him down, and at least doing enough work there, chipping away with strikes, putting him in occasional peril, not to get stood up immediately. Give me LeBlanc by decision in this one.
I think LeBlanc is not just his Canadian, that he's French Canadian. Like they had to put a French Canadian guy on it just in case something happens to Charles Jourdain. Like they have to have at least one French Canadian.
Maybe if something happens to Charles Jourdain's interpreter, like maybe he could step in for that.
I was thinking about this. Like this fight's at 185. George St. Pierre, I was just looking this up. He's 44 years old. He hasn't fought in almost 9 years. He hasn't been an active fighter in basically 13 years. Could George St. Pierre just show up and just beat the piss out of both these guys?
Yes.
I think I take George St. Pierre at this point. Matt Hughes, after get hit by a train, still might be able to beat these guys. This is not a UFC level fight. This fight is really, really bad. I mean, the number one note I had on Robert Valentin in bold, just so I wouldn't forget, is that this guy is not UFC level. His striking is so bad. He throws up these silly spinning attacks because he got one spinning back, like lucky spinning back KO on the Ultimate Fighter, and it hasn't come close to anything since then. He does throw a lot of kicks. He stands really tall with his chin in the air. He backs straight up the cage when he's pressured. All of his striking are they're ugly, but is to set up his entries. He wants to get to the fight of the ground. The problem is he isn't a good wrestler. He's a good grappler if he can get the fight to the ground. And if he gets the fight to the ground, he has good top control. But he can't get it there. He might have the worst takedown defense in the entire UFC, and he plays too much BJJ off his back. I mean, LeBlanc, I wrote my first thing I wrote in there is can't get excited about a 34-year-old making his debut. And then you also can't get excited for all the things you said too. He's a southpaw, he's flat-footed, his hands are slow. He does have good output, but he overthrows his strikes, so he's open to be countered. He also does some spinning attacks. I think I'd rather see these guys just like spin and see like who gets dizzy first and falls down like that. To me, might be more entertaining.
It would last longer than the Gauthier fight.
Oh, there you go. He's got a lot of kicks. He likes like the Holly Holmes side kick. He'll kick the body pretty hard. You mentioned he'll close the distance, grind and clinch, like some dirty boxing in there. He tries to wrestle. You like his wrestling better than I do. Like he tries to wrestle, but he's not a good wrestler.
I didn't say I liked it. I just said he did it.
Okay. Yeah. You said he did it. He's got 4 subs on his record. So this fight is so bad. Both guys are terrible. I can't believe Valentin's a favorite. Just not that I'm saying LeBlanc is good. I just give the UFC credit that they can find someone that Valentin would be favored over. And like still be like not the most like egregious signing, like the guy who's lost 5 in a row. I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm picking Valentin. I mean, at least on Tough, he did something. Like, he made it to the finals. I actually think he might be the better grappler. No, I'm saying that with zero confidence, but give me Valentin to get his first UFC win and extend his run with the organization. Give me Valentin by decision.
Next up at UFC Fight Night 273, and at least as of right now, the main card opener is a featherweight matchup between Denis Buzukja and Marcio Barbosa. Buzukja, the 28-year-old New Yorker, is 12-5 overall. He is 1-3 since joining the UFC as a two-time veteran of Dana White's Contender Series. We haven't seen him in the cage in over 18 months, but the last time we did see him, he was dropping a split decision to Francis Marshall. That was at UFC on ESPN, Cannonier versus Bajalio back in August of 2024. So he's been off for a while. He is looking to get back into the win column here. Again, he's 1-3 in his first 4 fights in the UFC, and standing across the cage from him will be Barbosa. 27-year-old Brazilian is 17-2 overall. While this will be his first fight in the UFC, he was impressive on Dana White's Contender Series last August when he knocked out Damon Wilson late in the first round. He is on a 4-fight win streak overall, and he is a comfortable favorite here. Keith, he's minus 450, Buzukja plus 350. I am cautiously optimistic for Marcio Barbosa. Like, everything he's done so far has been against fairly low-level opposition. Like, even his fights in LFA, because he came up through some of Brazil's lowest of the low-level organizations, where even the ones I could find any tape on, he's just dusting guys that can barely fight. But even once he got to the LFA level, like, he wasn't he won 3 or 4 in a row, and he wasn't even close to a title shot because he was just worming his way up through like the lowest guys that LFA had. I didn't think the guy he beat on the Contender Series was any great shakes. So even though Denis Buzukja is about as low as it gets in the UFC featherweight division right now, Buzukja is one of the best people Barbosa's fought so far. So we're going to see if his approach works on at least a nominally UFC level fighter. But I do like his striking. Like, you'll have a better take than I will on, you know, what the flaws and advantages of it are, but he's got good power, and he puts himself in a position to put that power on people's chin, you know, almost to a fault. You know, even against lower level fighters, his problem in my eyes has been he's run into a few too many strikes from people that shouldn't be able to lay a finger on him. That kind of describes Buzukja. Like, Buzukja is clearly he's clearly a well-schooled guy in the fundamentals of striking. I mean, he's been at Serra-Longo forever. They're a very good striking camp, but just he's not much of an athlete, like, not especially fast hands, not great footwork, mediocre power. His power is especially mediocre when when he's bumped up to 155, but even at 145, he's kind of a low power guy. His most of his finishes have come just through an accumulation of damage on people that couldn't, just couldn't get out of the way of his punches. This is a very wide line, as it should be, because this feels like a pretty straightforward fight to call for me. Even if Barbosa is not all he's cracked up to be, he should be more than enough for Buzukja. And Buzukja is pretty durable, but he can be got to. And again, Barbosa, whatever his flaws may be, is aggressive and pushes his advantages on the feet when he has them. I think he's probably going to knock Buzukja out. Give me Barbosa by second round KO.
Sorry, I had to take a second and just ponder my life and be like, why am I wasting my life away breaking down this card? Like, how much time I spent on this card? Yes, actually, this is one of the fights I'm actually somewhat excited about, and it has nothing to do with Denis Buzukja. I'll get him out of the way. Like, I think you broke him down perfect. Like, he's a poor athlete, you know. He has struggled with guys that have speed advantages. he tries to make up for it by just being a pressure power guy. He's constantly moving forward behind a high guard defense. I do think his boxing is pretty solid. He does keep everything tight, but he loads up a lot, trying to finish the fight with one punch. He does generate power because he really steps into his shots. I mean, we saw his power against Connor Matthews. I like his body work. He is open to leg kicks, though. I mean, go back to Sean Woodson. Sean Woodson just teed off teed off on him in the legs. He's a weak offensive wrestler. Not much entries from the outside. He more like will close the distance and try to get like some body lock takedowns after he grind in the clinch. He's a bad defensive wrestler, though. I mean, Sean Woodson is a kickboxer. He was taking him down. He can't get off the bottom. He tries to make up for his lack of skills with cardio. The problem is if a guy that has, you try to win with pressure and cardio, you have to have the chin to back it up, and his chin is really starting to fail him. Barbosa, on the other hand, he looks good. He really, really does. He fights by a high guard defense, a Muay Thai style striker, a lot of like L stepping, sets up his shots with feints, keeps everything tight, good left hook, those really good combinations, really good snap on his shots. You look at his record, he's got some serious power. He's got 14 TKOs. Defensively, he does turtle up a little bit, and that has a lot to do with that like Muay Thai background, hiding behind the big gloves and everything. He is also open to calf kicks. Not much of an offensive wrestler, but if he does get the fight to the ground, he does have 2 subs on his record. This is the reason why he's a big fan. I like Barbosa here too. I think he catches him early. I'm going to go even earlier than you said. I'm going to say Barbosa clips him right in the very first round. Give me Barbosa by first round TKO.
Next up on the UFC Winnipeg main card is a lightweight matchup between Thiago Moises and Gage Young. Moises, the 31-year-old Brazilian, is 19-9 overall. He is 8-7 since joining the UFC out of the first season of Dana White's Contender Series Brazil. He's alternated losses and wins over the last 3 years and counting. He is coming in off a loss. He fought most recently last May at UFC Fight Night Burns versus Morales, where he got knocked out by Jared Gordon in the first round. So by the pattern, he's due to get back in the win column. The man with something to say about that will be Young. The 25-year-old Kansas City native, 10-3 overall, 1-1 in the UFC. He is coming in off a win. He fought Maheshate last August at UFC Fight Night Walker versus Zhang. That was UFC either Shanghai or Macau. It was one of the ones in China anyway. Beat Maheshate by unanimous decision. Disappointed the crowd. He's looking for his second UFC win here. Keith, your favorite is -130, underdog +110. Who are they?
I'll say Moises is the favorite.
It's actually Young. Gage Young, -130. Thiago Moises +110. Tell me how you see this fight playing out. Who you think wins?
Yeah, this is like a better fight on the card. It's actually definitely one of the harder ones to pick, and that's because Moises is so inconsistent. There's times he looks fantastic, at times he looks terrible. He definitely isn't the best athlete. He's a little flat-footed. I don't mind his boxing, though. It doesn't have the best output, but he does keep everything tight. His hands are fairly fast. He's got some decent pop. I like his kicking game, hard body kicks. Go back to that fight against Mitch Ramirez. I mean, that was a while ago, but he stopped him with calf kicks. Defensively, he eats a lot of shots due to his lack of head movement, but he will get opportunities to get takedowns. He mixes his striking in with takedowns well. He wants to get to the fight to the ground, but he's not a great wrestler. He's definitely more of a BJJ guy who tries to wrestle like that. He's one of those guys who he doesn't drive through the hips. He often try to get in close and then kind of pull his opponents down to his guard or try to like get around the waist and body lock. And it's I've never been a big fan of that. That said, he's very, I don't want to say very, very good, but he's a good BJJ practitioner. If he gets on top, he's got good control. He has no issues stalling on top. We saw that against Trey Ogden. He has 8 or 9 submissions in his career. What I don't like, he'll drop down on an ankle. Like he caught Michael Johnson with it and almost caught Bobby Green with an ankle lock, but it's still I wouldn't make that a part of my game. I really think like ankle locks and the heel hooks and all that stuff is generally speaking unsuccessful. I am worried about his chin too. I mean, he was hurt by Ludwig Klein multiple times in the fight. He was just knocked out bad by Jared Gordon. What I like about Gage young. He's only 25 years old. He's a good striker. He switches stances a lot. He likes to march down his foe. A little bit of a builder as he gets stronger as the fight goes on. Nice jab. Doesn't have much power. When he gets in the pocket, he does do some good work. But hopefully he's coming into his power years and adds that to his game. But he got some tight hooks. I like that he goes to the body. He's willing to eat a shot to land one of his own, as he's been of a stationary target. One of the kind of hold your ground type strikers. He wants to be the one who's moving forward. He hates go back to the Quillen Salkid fight on kind of series. He hated the pressure from Salkid, but in fairness, I mean that's a loss that has aged really well.
Yep.
He mixes takedowns together with his striker. We saw that in his last fight. He's a bit of I'd say a takedown artist. Not the best top control. Maybe that's why he has to get so many takedowns. And he's not the best defensive wrestler, but if you take him down, he's hard to hold down. I don't have a really good read on this fight, and I think that's just because I don't have a good read on Moises because of how inconsistent he is. I thought I was picking an upset, but I'm going to take the favorite. I'm leaning towards Gage due to his youth. I also, at this point, really don't trust Moises' durability. And now I don't think Gage is the guy who starches him because we haven't really seen that part of Gage's game, but maybe he'll be just a little too fast and hopefully adding a little bit of power will at least hurt him or sting him a little bit. Give me Gage by decision.
Yeah. Most of my notes on this fight are very similar to yours, and especially about Moises, because he's somebody that it's hard to believe. Well, it's hard to believe that he's still just barely 31. He only turned 31 a few weeks ago. It's wild to think that, a month ago he was still just 30 years old.
Yeah, he feels 36, 37.
He absolutely does, and I'm going to get to more of that in a sec, but for a guy that's been in the UFC now for 8 years and counting, and we have probably previewed a dozen of his fights, I feel as though I should have a better handle on this guy. I'm with you there. And part of it is that, yes, he's inconsistent from fight to fight. And then part of it to me is also that almost everything about him is deceptive. You mentioned that he's a middling athlete, even though he looks like he should be a great athlete. He looks like a literal poster boy, just this V taper, a slightly elongated Michael Chandler type build. He's just an okay athlete. His striking isn't great, but it's better than I usually think it is. I go back to kind of the win streak that guaranteed that he was never going to be far from top 10 matchups, which is why he's basically 500 in the UFC. It's not that he's a bad fighter. It's that anytime he wins 2 fights in a row, they give him a top 10 opponent. And so, you see that a lot more often, I feel in the women's divisions that are just a lot thinner. It's the Angela Hill problem. It's not that Hill's a bad fighter. It's that anytime she wins 2 fights in a row, she gets a top 5 opponent. But I go back to those wins. It's he heel hooked Michael Johnson after just, kind of getting styled on in the first round. And that's one that really sticks in my mind. But then I went back and watched the Green and Hernandez fights, and he won those fights as well. And in each progressive fight, he beat those guys while spending less and less time on the ground. He basically beat Alexander Hernandez in an almost pure striking battle. If he was a complete dummy on the feet, even inconsistent head case, 2018 Alexander Hernandez would have brained him at some point. But yeah, he's not very fast hands, not very fast feet, mediocre power. And converse to his striking, his grappling is good, but it's not as good as we're often led to believe. He's a good submission artist, but terrible wrestler. And because of that, this is something for your bingo board, guys. He struggles to get the fight to the ground at the time, place, and position of his choosing. And there are very, very few fighters in MMA in 2026 that are so good on the ground that it doesn't matter how they get there. They're going to do something from the bottom or just quickly sweep to top position and go to work. It's just not those days anymore. It's not the days of Royce Gracie pulling guard against a 250-pound guy and tapping him out 90 seconds later. We're not there anymore. So Moises is inconsistent on the one hand and hamstrung by matchups on the other hand. If it's a guy that he can't get to the ground, he can sometimes eke out a decent performance on the feet, or sometimes he's just toast. I agree with your take on Young, and Young is somebody that I had next to no expectations for when he came to the UFC. I was like, this guy's just another kind of Midwestern jobber. Like, he might stick around and get a few decent wins, but like, yeah, he's still just 25. And at 155 pounds, I'm never going to say a guy like this is, surefire future top 10 guy, but I wouldn't be shocked. He has some things he can do well, and he has plenty of time to improve. And specifically, kind of like you mentioned, I like him in the matchup here. His game would, if he develops some more power over the next couple of years, the same basic approach he uses now will suddenly start to become really, really effective. But as it is, I think he probably keeps this on the feet, just uses wrestling in reverse, busts Moises up with his better volume, better power, better combination punching, and yeah, just kind of wins a pretty straightforward looking decision over a very established UFC veteran. Next up on the UFC Winnipeg main card is a women's flyweight matchup between Jasudavicius and Karine Silva. Jasudavicius, the 37-year-old Canadian, 14-4 overall, 8-3 since joining the UFC out of season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series. She is coming in off a loss. She fought most recently last October at UFC Fight Night Darya versus Allan, where she got plunked in about a minute and a half by Manon Fior. Prior to that, she'd been on a 5-fight win streak that saw her take down several top 15 and then top 10 fighters in Jessica Andrade and Mayra Bueno Silva. So she's looking to put the bad loss to Fior in the rear view, prove that she is still a factor in the title picture here, and she needs to do it against Silva. 32-year-old Brazilian, 19-6 overall, 5-2 in the UFC. She is also coming in off a loss. She fought most recently at UFC 323 in December, where she lost a unanimous decision to Maycee Barber. Silva needs to bounce back from that. Keith, Jasudavicius is your favorite. Take a guess at what the line is.
Well, I'm assuming it's over minus 200, minus 220.
Jasmine Jasudavicius minus 300, Karine Silva
Wow.
plus 250.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a little surprised as well. And we both seem to be surprised, and we're both Jasmine Jasudavicius backers, generally speaking.
We are.
Yeah. Give me your take on this one. Tell me how you think it plays out and who you think wins.
Yeah, I mean, if you go on paper alone, you could make an argument. I'm not saying it should be, and I would go with Burns and Malott, but you could make an argument that Karine Silva versus Jasmine Jasudavicius deserves to be the main event.
Sure.
Now, I think you get even probably less ticket sales if this was the main event, but we like Jasudavicius, but I don't know if she should be minus 300. Karine Silva's a well-rounded fighter. I mean, she's a kickboxer with pretty quick hands. She throws, and, she's been a ranked fighter for a long time and fought like a lot of good fighters too. So I'll mention that. She throws some nice straight shots, throws a lot of combinations. I like her kicking game. She loves teep kicks and a quick high kick. Good offensive wrestling. Though I was surprised how easily taken down she was by Maycee Barber. She does like body lock takedowns. She chains takedowns together well. She's a good overall grappler. She's got 9 subs on her record. Can get subs off her back, though she will look for submission off her back instead of scrambling back to her feet. Jasudavicius, she's a really big fighter for the weight class, long and lanky, very physically imposing. Usually that's her biggest advantage over opponents. That she's an intelligent fighter. She puts herself in position to win. She moves forward with pressure, trying to get her opponent to back up. She has good volume. Her striking has improved. She's got good variety, nice jab. Not the best defense. She doesn't eat too many shots for my liking. But a lot of it, all that stuff is to work to close the distance and get in the clinch and grind away. Use her strength to wear down her opponent. Nice, mean clinch striking. Uses knees close inside. Her threat of wrestling opens up her opportunities to land strikes on the feet. But ultimately, she's going to want to try to get the fight to the ground. Usually like a body lock or a trip takedown. Though she can shoot like a reactionary double if you open up too big. She's good at winning scrambles, nice top control. I always go back to this fight. It was probably the most impressive is how bad she handled Miranda Maverick on the ground. I thought that was really impressive. She's got some busy ground and pound. She recently got a few submissions, including sub and Jessica Andrade. You do have to worry about her chin, though, and her mindset after getting knocked out by Manafro. Like I said, ranking-wise, this is probably the best fight on the card. I actually do think Silva might be the more talented and polished fighter, better offensive weapons. Jasudavicius, on the other hand, is just so physical, and she's the better winner. Like, she's very intelligent. She has a better game plan. She's got to put herself in position to win. I think she gets to the clinch. I think she gets some takedowns. Give me Jasudavicius by decision.
I'm going to blow through this so fast that everyone's going to assume this was the fast pass fight. I agree with you on all points, as even down to Jasudavicius having the marginal advantages both in mental approach and kind of physical horsepower. And I think that's going to be the difference here. Both of these women are good fighters. They're both smart fighters. They both generally fight to their best advantage, but everywhere this matchup does favor Jasudavicius, I expect her to leverage those advantages. Give me Jasudavicius by decision in a fight in which Karine Silva spends either a lot of time on the ground or backing up, trying not to get taken down and unable to get her kickboxing going. If you are just tuning in now, this is the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC Fight Night 273. Hey, didn't you used to be in Bellator? Third from the top is a lightweight matchup between the debuting Mandel Nallo and Jai Herbert. Nallo, the 36-year-old Canadian, is 14-3 with 1 no contest overall. As I said, this will be his UFC debut, but he has 10 or 12 fights in Bellator and then appeared on Dana White's Contender Series last September, where he knocked out Samuel Silva in the first round. So finally, he'll be making his UFC debut here, and it will be against Herbert. 37-year-old Englishman is 13-6-1 overall. He is 3-5-1 since joining the UFC as the former Cage Warriors lightweight champ. He is coming in off a loss. He dropped a split decision to Chris Padilla at UFC Fight Night Edwards versus Brady last March. So been on the shelf for just a little over a year, stepping back in here. Keith, Nallo is, of course, your favorite. He's Canadian. He's minus 180. Herbert plus 150. It's interesting. Like, Nallo, kind of like Gokhan Saricam that we talked about before, is a guy that was just a constant presence, constant kind of mid-card presence on Bellator cards, honestly, during kind of the same era. Disappeared after the PFL acquisition, won a few fights in regional promotions for Nallo that happened to include the Contender Series, and is kind of making a surprising debut here. But unlike Saricam, when I went back and watched some of Nallo's fights, I was like, you know what, this guy never was that bad. Like, he was never a huge standout, even in Bellator. Like, took a couple of, like, not even his losses that bother me, but just fighting some really, really kind of mediocre guys on Bellator undercards. Even when he clearly outclassed him, just kind of let some of them hang out a little too long. Like, I know the stereotype is that, you know, Canadians are just super nice and polite, but he very, very Canadian type striker. Physically, there are some similarities between these two. They're, you know, both tall, lanky, rangy lightweights that I think are going to prefer the same kind of striking battle. Like, they're going to want to kind of engage at the same basic distance. They don't throw the exact same repertoire of strikes, but I have the feeling this is going to feel a little bit like a mirror match in some ways. And Nallo is the favorite here. And my immediate impression was, well, both these guys like a similar kind of fight, and I think Jai Herbert might be better at it. But looking at Nallo's, like, kind of later fights in Bellator and then his appearance on the Contender Series, the fact that Herbert is only a year or so older, but to me feels older than that in fight years, like, feels as though he's been slowing down a little bit. You know, 2 years ago, I would have said, oh, you know, Herbert's better than his record in the UFC. He might be the best guy under 500 in the entire promotion. I'm not sure I feel that anymore. At some point, you are what your record says you are. Again, if these guys had met 2 years ago and the line was this, I would have been all over Herbert. But Nallo just feels like the fresher, more dynamic fighter at this point in their respective careers, he feels like the more durable fighter. And while neither of these guys is just a super one-shot kill shot sniper, in my opinion, they are going to land on each other. And I have the feeling that Nallo is going to respond better to those shots. So give me Nallo by decision here. But this has the makings of a real fun fight, even if I don't think there's top 15 upside in either guy. And I mean, this is probably the last time you'll see either of these two guys third from the top of a UFC card, but it should be a real fun one. And on a card like this, that's kind of the best we can hope for. So give me Nallo by decision.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, hey, it used to be in Bellator. Like, let's just move this card to like Thackerville and call it a Bellator card. So that's what you need. You need to be in Thackerville. Then you need Scott Coker to talk about the old Strikeforce days, and it'd be perfect. Yeah, I think this is gonna be a pretty evenly matched fight. I think I'm probably a little bit higher on Herbert at this point in his career than you. I think I haven't completely given up on him. He's really big guy for the weight class. He's still a pretty good athlete. Nice footwork. I'd say he's a good striker. Definitely a distant striker, a technical striker, like kind of pop shots with a jab. But you know, decent, good output. He falls with straight shots down the pike. If he gets in close, I love that he looks for slicing elbows. Not like a one punch fight ender, but I'd say he has some plus power. Big kicking game though. He loves his like a high kick from range. He does need to check leg kicks. A lot of fighters over the years has really beat up his legs with kicks. He doesn't get enough credit for his offensive wrestling. I think he's an underrated wrestler, especially in the clinch. He likes to get clinch takedowns with it due to his size. He's an overall solid grappler, some good back takes. He likes to body triangle with his long legs. He does need to improve his overall takedown defense. Nallo, it's funny, he's dude's 36 years old, and it seems like yesterday he was viewed as a prospect in Bellator. He's a striker. He uses a lot of feints, good at beating his opponents to the point of contact. He's got a hard, stiff jab, good power. He does back straight up, which is concerning defensively. He likes to go airborne. Like I was there when he crushed Carrington Banks with a flying knee. He's got a lot of leg kicks. He will close the distance and grind and clinch. He's not a small lightweight himself. He will look to get the fight to the ground. But I mean, it is a card in Canada, so I think this fits. But this card should be called "But Not a Wrestler" because I know I've said that about 20 guys now. But good back takes. He's got 6 subs on his record, so I think this line should be closer. I think this is a really tough fight to pick. I'm going to go the other way. I tend to like Herbert a little better. I've kind of always liked Herbert. And you might be right. Like maybe I should be saying what you're saying. Like your record indicates who you are. And there could be some truth to that. And probably is. But I'm still going to hold on Herbert. I think he might jab him, kick him from distance. I actually think he might get a takedown or two, or at least have some scrambles. And give me Herbert by decision.
That brings us to the co-main event of UFC Fight Night 273, a bantamweight matchup between Kyler Phillips and Charles Jourdain. Phillips, the 30-year-old Arizona native, is 12-4 overall. He is 6-3 in the UFC. He is on a 2-fight losing streak, the first losing streak of any kind of his entire career. We saw him most recently last July at UFC 318, where he lost a unanimous decision to Vinicius Oliveira. So he's looking, obviously, to snap that losing streak, reassert himself as a actual contender in the bantamweight division. But in order to do any of those things, he will need to get past Jourdain. 30-year-old from Quebec is 17-8-1 overall. He is 8-7 since joining the UFC as a former 2-division champ in Canada's TKO promotion. He held both the featherweight and lightweight titles in the UFC. He joined as a featherweight and has dropped to bantamweight, and he's on a 2-fight win streak. He fought most recently last October at UFC Fight Night Darya versus Allan, where he guillotined Davy Grant in the first round. So he's looking for his 3rd straight win, continuing his lease on life in his new division. He is favored to get it done. He is -140, Phillips +110. Keith, I am flipping this to you because I cannot tell whether Kyler Phillips has fallen off or was never that good. So I'm hoping you will teach me and tell me who you think wins this fight.
That's pretty fair. I'm gonna go with maybe never was that good. I mean, well, there's definitely some things you like about the guy. I mean, obviously, he's still an extremely good athlete. He's a very explosive guy. He's still pretty fast. He moves well. He's got good footwork. He attacks from different angles. He likes to slip and rip. He's with good head movement. He hated to be pressured by Rob Font though. Like he needs his space. He's got good volume. Not very technical, but he throws big combinations. I like his kicking game. I mean, he batters the calves. He likes to do fun stuff. He'll go spinning attacks, flying knees, all that stuff. He mixes punches and kicks together in combination well, which I like. Has a lot of variety of striking. I've talked about before about his dexterity and his legs, where he throws kicks from all different angles. This is probably why I'm saying maybe he's fallen off, because he's there's nothing like glaring weakness. He's an underrated wrestler. He can get both entries and body lock takedowns. Pretty good at winning scrambles. He will move to a better position once the fight hits the ground. If he's the one taking down, he's hard to hold down. His gas tank man is a little inconsistent. We've seen him fade late in fights, and a lot of that has to do with his explosive movements. And obviously, if he's not that explosive, that really changes his entire dynamic of his game, because he's not very technical. Charles Jourdain is very similar to Phillips. Like, he's a tremendous athlete. Everything built off his athleticism. He fights out of both stance. I shouldn't say everything comes off his athleticism, because really it's his volume too. He fights at insane volume at his best. Quick hands, explosive, got a great left hook. He likes lead uppercuts, which is rare. He can overthrow his shots, which leads him to be open to counters. Similar to Phillips, he likes to go in there. We might get a bunch of flying knees and spinning attacks in this fight. One thing he does with his flying knee is he'll try to time his opponent as a kind of gauging distance or just attacking forward. He's got a massive kicking game. He loves to end combos with kicks, especially the high kick, hard body kicks, nice calf kicks. He eats a lot of shots, and he believes as long as his opponent's fighting at a high pace, he thinks they won't be able to sustain that. They'll slow down, and then that's when he really takes over. The problem is that he's been hurt a lot. I mean, Gene Silva knocked him out bad. He will look for takedowns. I would say he's like an average wrestler at best, but he's a slick grappler though. I mean, he's constantly looking for guillotines. I mean, he's subbed so many guys. I mean, Ricardo Ramos and Lando Venata and Josh Kulabau. I mean, he seriously might have the best guillotine in MMA. And then his submission defense. I mean, he got out of all bunch of different submission attempts from Shane Burgos, and he's hard to hold down, and he'll go hard all 15 minutes. So as far as prediction go, I like Jourdain here. I think he's better than Phillips really everywhere. I think his pace will be too much for Phillips to handle. I got Jourdain by decision. I just realized we're at the co-main event, and I haven't locked anything on it, and I'm like, I'm definitely not going to lock the main event. So give me Jourdain to win. And you said he's like minus. What did you say he was?
140.
Yeah, 140. Okay, that's good enough. He's not like a massive. Give me. Yeah, I think Jourdain should be like minus 180. So give me Jourdain for my lock on that.
I like the breakdown there, and I kind of fed you that leading question: is Phillips falling off or never that good? And obviously, it's not a. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Like, he's clearly good, and it's a division where you can be a very good fighter and never sniff the top 10. You have to be an exceptional fighter to camp out in the top 10 at 135. But what you said that I'm just like, oh, thank goodness somebody else said it, is when you said he's not that technical as a striker, because I do not come from a striking background myself. I wrestled in high school. I train jiu-jitsu now. Like, I'm an appreciator of the striking arts. I'm always hesitant to watch a professional fighter, especially one who, throws off crazy like question mark kicks from both sides and spinning shit and be like, oh, he's not that technical. But you're right. Like, he throws an incredible variety of strikes, and he has incredible, obviously, dexterity in his legs. He mixes things well, but a lot of it runs off of his speed. And, you know, he has defensive lapses. And he feels like a guy who is still very good, and he's not that old. He's still just like 30 years old, but is hitting a sort of ceiling where either he's going to be this guy going forward, just a guy with sort of known strengths and weaknesses, or he'll, you know, end up turning a corner and retooling his game. But right now he's a guy that seems to have hit a ceiling where Jourdain seems to have found his groove. Like, I remember when Jourdain kind of decided to move down to 135. It was after back-to-back fights against Sean Woodson and John Silva, where Jourdain was not a particularly small 145 pounder, but against Woodson, he was like, finally, okay, this is ridiculous. And then against John Silva, he's like, okay, these guys hit a little too hard for me to deal with my style. That's like a furious pace, and I do get hit, you know, fairly often. We haven't seen him go to the third round yet as a bantamweight, so I guess it'll remain to be seen if he can maintain his kind of pace for 3 rounds at 135 pounds. But the early returns have been excellent. Like against Victor Henry, he slapped on that patented guillotine choke against a guy who is a very, very good grappler. Against Davy Grant, a guy who is a generally underrated fighter and an underratedly athletic fighter, Jourdain's speed, power, and explosion advantages that he had over most people at 145 seem to have carried over to 135. So again, the early returns are good. This is an interesting, I don't know if Phillips in his current competitive state is a definite step up from Henry and Grant, but he's at least a lateral step at like a different look. Like if Jourdain can make his game work against Kyler Phillips, like he has time and potential to make some serious noise at 135. Like as much as we crapped on this card, like we might learn some things about Charles Jourdain that make us remember UFC Winnipeg, you know, 2 years from now when he's in the top 5 and knocking on the door of a title shot.
Well,
I'm not saying we will, but he's earned the kind of matchup and the kind of card placement where he has the opportunity to do that. And Phillips is the right kind of opponent to do so. Like if he looks fast against Phillips, if he can apply his kind of pressure and make Phillips uncomfortable the way a lot of the other people that have beaten Phillips have, those will be good things to learn about him. I do like him in this fight as well. Like, I don't know if I'm going to slap a lock of the night on this card, but I do like Jourdain to at least hold his own on the feet and just catch Phillips in a collision, maybe overswinging on something, a moment of inattention. We get a collision, we get a scramble, and he slaps on that front headlock. And I'll take Jourdain by second round submission, probably a guillotine choke. With that, we come to the main event of UFC Fight Night 273, a welterweight matchup between Gilbert Burns and Mike Malott. Burns, the 39-year-old Brazilian, is 22-9 overall. He is 15-9 in the UFC. He is coming in on a lengthy streak of losses dating back at this point 3 full years. We saw him fight just once last year. He faced Michael Morales in the headliner of UFC Fight Night 256 in May and got knocked out late in the first round. We haven't seen him back in the cage since then. More on that in a minute. But again, 4-fight losing streak. If he were anyone other than Gilbert Burns, you know, one of the more likable, recognizable fighters in the UFC and a longtime standout who, you know, has contended for titles, he might already be gone. But as it is, the UFC needed somebody for Mike Malott's first headlining appearance. Malott, 34-year-old from Eastern Canada, 13-2-1 overall, 6-1 since joining the UFC out of season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series, and as a veteran also of Bellator as well as World Series of Fighting. He is on a 3-fight win streak, dating back at this point almost 2 full years. He fought twice last year. Most recently, he fought at UFC Fight Night De Ridder versus Allan in October, where he won a unanimous decision over Kevin Holland. He'll look to make it 4 in a row, completely turn from prospect, if you believe the UFC, to actual contender. He is comfortably favored to do so. Keith, Malott is your favorite. What's the line, do you think?
Minus 350.
That is close enough for a tap in. Malott minus 375, Burns plus 275. when I saw the line, as I, because I put together the skeleton of my notes first, like who's fighting, what are their records, what are the odds, and then I go in and fill with my notes. When I slapped on the odds, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to unpack this crazy upset pick. And then I'm like, oh man, this line is right, isn't it? Because here's the thing. There are reasons that Malott would be easy to pick for an upset here. He's in his first UFC headliner against a guy who has a ton of big fight experience. He's in his first 5-round fight in the UFC against a guy with tons of big fight experience. And Malott is a guy that the last time he lost, the reason he lost is he gassed out and got run into the dust by Neil Magny. Like there'd be all kinds of reasons to pick an upset, even if Malott was a rightful favorite. Here come the problems. Burns is so shop worn at this point that I'm slightly uncomfortable that he's still fighting. Again, I'm never going to be so paternalistic as to say somebody else should quit their job for their own good. Like just that's, that we're all grown-ups. We make our own decisions. But I will say that as a fan of the sport, I'm uncomfortable watching it. Burns got knocked out in the first round by Michael Morales last May, and he's on record as saying he had delayed concussion symptoms like a month later. Like the main reason he hasn't fought in almost a year is that he was still having like fainting spells and headaches and nausea like a month after his fight. That stuff can get better in the short term. Obviously, like brain swelling can go down, but at age 39, the problems behind it certainly aren't going to get any better. Like Burns is a guy that I celebrated when he finally moved up from 155 to 170 pounds. Just he was clearly wrecking himself to make the lightweight limit, and for a while it went amazingly at welterweight. He's a very explosive athlete, and because of that, he comes to MMA as a literal world-class grappler, like a former world champion, but kind of like some people like, say, Jacare Souza, he had this explosive physicality that, one, allowed him to find a wrestling game that worked for him pretty quickly, even without having a deep pedigree in amateur wrestling, and also revealed that he had just monstrous natural power in his hands. Like Burns was so much fun during his prime, say, 5 or 6 years ago. But because all of this ran on explosion and all of his best offense required him to navigate a minefield against people that were generally much taller and rangier than him, as soon as the top gear started to slip, he was going to start taking a lot of punishment. And as soon as he started taking a lot of punishment, like everything else was going to start falling apart really quick. And I feel as though that's what kind of happened. Like, you look at his 4-fight losing streak, he hasn't lost to any bad people. He's lost to 2 champs and 2 top 3 fighters, like not even top 5, like 2 top 3 fighters. He's lost to just the very best of the best of the best. So if Malott beats him as bad as the odds seem to think, then we will know that Burns is well and truly washed. But again, with a line this wide, I start from the opposite proposition. Like, what's it look like if Burns wins? Well, he still hits like a truck, and Malott still is hittable. He could plunk him in the first round, and this thing is over. That's one possibility. There is the possibility that through some collision or scramble, we end up with them on the ground and Burns on top. And while Malott is a very capable grappler, definitely knows what he's doing on the ground, like Burns does not want to deal with Mike Malott from bottom position. Like if he ends up on bottom, or worse yet, like pulls guard to get it on the ground, Malott's going to pound his head into paste. Like just Malott's too big, too heavy on top, too savvy a grappler, and throws good enough ground and pound that's not a viable thing for Burns. So what are we left with? We're left with either Burns lands a low percentage shot, or Burns lasts 3 rounds at a high enough pace that we find out that Mike Malott does not, in fact, have 5-round wheels. Those really seem like outside possibilities to me, which is why this line is what it is. And if the fight kind of goes as expected, I mean, I don't think Malott is a future contender in this division. I thought it was funny, and I think it's funny every time the UFC has been trying to sell this card and they call Malott a prospect. No, he's a 34-year-old guy that's been fighting in top-level organizations for 10 years. Like, he is what he is, and what he is he's a good welterweight. He's a good, solid welterweight. Better than average, a guy who apparently can headline cards in Canada. But even if he wrecks Burns, which, to get this out of the way is what I'm picking him to do, like, I'm not going to come out of this. Like, there's nothing he could do to Burns that would leave me going, okay, yeah, this guy's definitely a title contender now. I think Burns will probably have some success early. He still comes out hot. Even at this point, assuming he's roughly the same guy he was last May, he's still going to be quicker than Malott. He's still probably a harder puncher on a shot-for-shot basis. I don't think he's quite quick enough to get in and land that stuff on Malott without eating shots in return, and I don't think he can take the shots that are coming in return. It's hard not to like Burns. He's like just this lovable little muscular guy who has exciting fights and seems just like kind of charming and funny. So nothing against Malott, but this is going to be pretty depressing. Give me Malott to take over this fight by the end of the first round. I think by the second round, he's probably going to be hurting Burns bad enough at distance or even in the clinch that we do see something like a desperation takedown by Burns or a guard pull, and then Malott just pounds him out on the ground. Give me Malott by second round TKO.
Yeah, this main event, I'm trying to wrap my head around, like, what was it? I mean, I understand they're in Canada and you're trying to get the Canadian guy to win. But I agree. You said, like, there's really nothing he can do to Burns to make me feel much better. And, like, he's going to have to absolutely destroy him, where it's basically like what Cub Swanson just did to Nate Landwehr.
And if I can interject something, he's had an opportunity here. Because say if, about 2 years ago, he had destroyed Neil Magny in that his only UFC loss, I would have been like, okay, I'm scrapping my scouting report on Mike Malott. He might need some matchups here and there, but he's a future top 10 guy at welterweight. Mm-hmm. This isn't that.
No, I feel like it's all risk, not that much reward for Malott. Like, to me, he's got to have a flawless victory to really move up in stock, because I really think that the narrative's not going to be like, oh, how good was Mike Malott? It's just be like, Gilbert, he's toast. I mean,
yeah. Here, his last 2 wins are over Kevin Holland and Charles Radke, both of whom we just got to see last week. Is beating Burns going to be more impressive than those?
Name wise, but not. I mean, it's tough. I think it's it's harder than what we have with Burns because of who he's fought. Like, he's fought studs of studs. So, like you said, yeah. I mean, just like he got clipped by Michael Morales. Like, okay, you know what I mean?
Michael Morales might be champ at a year from now.
Yeah, absolutely. Burns, I mean, like you said, he's super likable. Everyone's a fan of Burns. I mean, when you think of well-rounded fighters, Gilbert Burns is a perfect example. I mean, the issue is that he just might be shot. Sure, like you said, all his losses have come against top competition, but he's looked really bad. It's not just that he's lost. I mean, he's I mean, the Della Maddalena one, he didn't look super bad, but like Maddalena came back on him, but he's a short guy for the weight class, small guy. He can still strike. I mean, he still has quick hands, and the problem is his volume has really dipped. He will keep everything inside and tight, and he throws some hard hooks. He attacks with combinations. He tries to get inside and land bombs. He does have power. I mean, we go back to like the David Mai, it was forever ago, but he starts David Mai. He hurt Kamaru Usman in that fight. He hurt Chimaev. But those moments are going further and further in the rear. He did hurt Jack Malamena at times in that fight, but due to his height, he still struggles with the longer, lengthier welterweights. Chimaev busting him up with a jab. Usman busting him up with a jab. He was reaching a lot when he was trying to counter-strike Della Maddalena, which I think was a huge sign of decline. Obviously he still hits hard. He does like to close the distance and grind the clinch. He for a jiu-jitsu guy, he can wrestle. I mean, he checked Jack Della Maddalena down 7 times. He also likes body lock takedowns. But the big issue is his durability. I mean, Michael Morales tees off on everyone, so I give him a little bit of a pass for that. But he, can he? Well, I skipped over his ground. I mean, he obviously can still, if he gets to fight the ground, he's really good. He's one of the most elite grapplers in the history of MMA. He's 3-time world champion and all this. He's got 9 or 10 subs. He subbed Neil Magny and stuff. But it comes out his durability is really worrisome, and obviously his age. And he's not just that he's old. He's got the wear and tear too. I mean, he's been in those big fights and the big matchups. Malott, I see he's a plus athlete. Like, nothing really jumps out, but he's a pretty decent athlete. He's got some good footwork. He does move well. He uses movement well against a Charles Radtke and handling the pressure from Radtke. He doesn't have the best volume at times, and his hand speed. I didn't know that it looked better in his last fight, but I still don't think it's a strength. But he's a good technical striker. He works on a good jab. He's one of the few guys that doubles it up. He has some pop in his hands. He's got a good left hook. I still say he has plus power. I mean, he showed some power against Radtke. He can't overthrow his punches at times, which leaves him to be countered. Big kicking game. He likes teep kicks. He likes some hard calf kicks. Defensively, he doesn't move his head enough. He has taken a lot of damage. He's been hurt for a guy who's, it's funny you mentioned that, he's viewed as a prior call the prospects. He's editing out. Like he is, his floor could break at any time. So, especially with the amount of damage he's taken. Now, he is a solid wrestler. He's got some good entries. He's got some good overall grappling. He's got 5 submission wins. He's got a really fast guillotine. But if you put him down on the bottom, he struggles to get off the bottom. I'm not completely sold on him. I mean, the dude couldn't finish Kevin Holland after Kevin Holland spent 12 minutes just grabbing his nuts after like a really bad. I mean, it could have been just a no contest if Kevin didn't continue to fight. If Burns is close to his prime, I think Burns wins easily. I don't think he didn't have to even be in his prime. He's going to be close to it. The issue is, again, I do have some reservation because of who he lost to. He doesn't have a bad loss yet, or I think Malot's still going to beat him up on the feet. I think he's going to jab him up. I think he's going to land hard hooks. I think eventually he's going to put him out. If Malott was a hard hitter, I'd say put him out earlier, but he's not the hardest hitter. I'll say Malott puts him out in the 3rd round. Yeah, that's fine. Give me Malott by 3rd round TKO.
All right. And that is the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC Fight Night 273, Burns versus Malott, also known as UFC Winnipeg. I've been Ben. He has been Keith. If this is your first time watching or listening to one of our previews, how is it in Winnipeg? Because I assume you live there if this is the first time you've watched one of our shows. But we hope you enjoyed it. This one has been a little more off the rails than usual. We try to dress up or down to the occasion. But, we think we bring a mix of actual in-depth analysis and occasional story time that is pretty unique in this space. Please do like, subscribe. Neither of those things cost you a thing. They make our bosses happy, allow us to keep bringing you this content free of charge. Drop us a comment. Keith and I both man the comment section. We would love to hear your take on these fights. We picked a number of upsets, one unanimous upset. If you think we left any money on the table, let us know. If you think any of our picks are off the wall, let us know, because if you're right and we're wrong, we will happily give you your flowers on the recap. You just need to come collect them. We are live on the Sherdog YouTube page right after the main event. Keith takes the captain's chair. We'll talk about all 13 of these fights in reverse order, from the headliner on down to the curtain jerker, talking about what was good, what was bad, what was surprising, what was controversial. There's always something. Talking about what's next for some of the notable winners as well as losers, and talking with you. The live chat is open that whole time, so we're taking your questions, your comments, and your hot takes in real time. We have a growing community of friends that hang out with us after the fights, and we would love for you to be part of it. Between now and then, thank you once again for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and by all means, enjoy these fights.